You guys recycle.
Jack Reacher is on the road again and heading towards an exciting third season. The hit Amazon action series drew acclaim and high viewership in its first 2 seasons. Now ScreenRant is here to catch you up on all you need to know before the hulking drifter returns.
If you boys knew what's about to happen to you, you'd leave now. So I'll give you to the count of 3.
Warning. Huge spoilers for season 1 and 2. The show centers around the former special investigator turned willing hobo Jack Reacher. Played by Alan Ritchson, Reacher is a physically imposing figure who is more than able to physically defeat any foe who is dumb enough to start something. However, on top of his massive muscles, he also has a keen and sharp investigative mind. Jack Reacher was a former special investigator for the United States military. His backstory, as set up across the past 2 seasons, is layered and depthful. Raised in a military household with his brother Joe, both men entered the military like their father before them, and both men quickly rose through the ranks. At some point in Reacher's past, he was stationed in the Middle East and came across a group of men assaulting some local boys. He gave them the option to turn themselves in, but when they later tried to take Reacher out, he was waiting. This altercation ended up on Reacher's record and affected his combat career. Afterwards, he joined the military police service and formed the Special Investigators. This elite unit was tasked with uncovering massive crimes within the armed forces, including drug smuggling and homicide. However, one investigation leads to Reacher and his team ruffling the feathers of a powerful general and getting the whole team disbanded. This ended Reacher's career in the military. The first season starts soon after this event, with Reacher living as a free spirit, hitchhiking across America. His journey brings him to the small town of Margrave, where he hopes to see a jazz landmark his brother had told him about. However, as he arrives, he is arrested for what turns out to be the murder of his own brother, Joe. Joe had since gone on to work for Homeland Security and was in Margrave investigating a massive criminal gun-running network. Throughout the first season, Reacher investigates his brother's death, along with the other related deaths in town. He is aided by local police officers Roscoe and Finley. Together they uncover the whole operation and then dispatch pretty much everyone involved. At the end of the season, despite striking up a romantic relationship with Roscoe, Reacher decides to move on, stopping only briefly to pay respects to the place his brother fell. Though Reacher may seem like a loner, he is hardly without friends. In fact, his closest friend is Frances Neagley. Played by Maria Stan, Neagley is just as smart, fearless, and capable as her hulking counterpart. Also a former special investigator and member of Reacher's old team, she now works in private security and freelances as a PI. She was introduced in the first season when Reacher enlisted her help in investigating the criminal underground of Margrave. Neagley proves herself capable in both investigation and combat. At the end of the first season, she helps Reacher in rescuing both Roscoe and the Hubble family. She also takes down her fair share of bad guys, as she is an expert sharpshooter. Neagley also suffers from haptiophobia, or the fear of being touched. Throughout the series, she avoids any physical contact with everyone, Reacher included. Because of this, Reacher and Neagley share a special contactless greeting and goodbye. They also share a special call and repeat of,
I ever tell you you're smart, Neely?
Not nearly enough.
Reacher and Neagley are very close, but not on any romantic level. Season 2 even begins with her recruiting Reacher in a quest to find the killer of another former member of his squad. In fact, this brings us to Season 2 as a whole. The second season of the show takes place after a 2-year time gap. In the intervening years, Reacher has been up to his usual routine. He even briefly mentions that in between the first and second season, he has already gone through the plot of the book One Shot. This is the book previously adapted into the Tom Cruise-led film Jack Reacher. Given a signal by Neagley, the two meet up and find out that a few fellow members of Reacher's former team have all turned up dead. Eventually, Reacher and Neagley are also joined by former team members David O'Donnell and Carla Dixon. Together, the four of them, as well as NYPD detective Guy Russo, investigate Shane Langston, the crooked chief of security of a major arms manufacturer. He is setting up a deal where he sells a load of experimental surface-to-air missiles to a terrorist group through a middleman known only as AM. In the course of the season, Guy is dispatched while protecting a young girl. Reacher is also approached by U.S. Senator Malcolm Lavoie. Lavoie tells Reacher that because he supported the arms manufacturer, he can't be tied to the illegal illegal deal. Reacher doesn't believe him fully, however he decides to work with the suspiciously helpful man. Eventually the team corners Langston, played by Robert Patrick, at his plant. Reacher ends up getting the upper hand thanks to backup from Senator Lavoie, and eventually ends up on a helicopter with a restrained Carla and Langston. After a brief fight, Reacher ends up tossing Langston out of a helicopter, fulfilling a promise he made earlier. Reacher and co then intercept AM, who they pretty quickly dispatch. They also get the drop on Senator Lavoie's sudden but inevitable betrayal. Reacher has made a secret second deal with his brother's old partners at Homeland Security, and Lavoie and his team are quickly arrested. Reacher says goodbye to his old team, including Carla Dixon, with whom he had struck up a romantic relationship. He says goodbye to Neagley as well, who makes him a promise to stay in touch more than once every 2 years. Reacher is based on a very long-running book series from author Lee Child. Child has written over 25 books centering around the hulking drifter, with the first book, The Killing Floor, being published way back in 1997. This is the book that was adapted into the show's first season. However, the second season did not follow the second book, but instead jumped to the 11th book, Bad Luck and Trouble. Reacher is not the only adaptation of the books either. One Shot and Never Go Back were previously turned into the pair of Tom Cruise starring films. As mentioned earlier, Alan Ritchson's Reacher also lived through the plot of One Shot between seasons. While the first Jack Reacher movie was successful, Never Go Back was a critical dud. The upcoming third season of the show is based on the book Persuader. This is actually the 7th book in the series, which means that Reacher is choosing to jump around the book order and adapt them into a new timeline for the hero. As said before, season 3 is being adapted from the novel Persuader. The premise of that book finds Jack Reacher actually going undercover. After saving the son of a powerful businessman from a kidnapping attempt, Reacher is recruited by the DEA to further gain his trust. They suspect the man named Zachary Beck of secretly being a massive drug smuggler. Beck is being played by Anthony Michael Hall, who has had a long career since he was in The Breakfast Club. Reacher is also facing off this season against Polly, played by the imposing Oliver Richters. Polly is one of the few book characters that has been physically able to stand against Reacher, and Richter certainly looks the part. Maria Sten is also returning as Frances Neagley. While Neagley wasn't in the original book, her inclusion in this season shows that Reacher is keeping his promise that he made to her. Finally, Brian T. will also be joining the cast as Quinn. This is a character who is said to have a deep connection to Reacher's past, and even harbors a vendetta against the former MP officer. The first season of Reacher received widespread acclaim and word-of-mouth success. The show is praised for its tight story, likable lead, and cathartic action. However, the same cannot be said of the second season. The follow-up was criticized for being too cliché, giving the characters a ridiculous amount of plot armor, and even having an unsatisfying conclusion. This means that there is a lot riding on season 3 being a return to form. Longtime fans of the franchise are openly hoping for another smaller story set in a central location, with Reacher working with a few select partners to bring justice to those in need. Are you looking forward to a new season? And what else do you think is important to remember? Thanks for watching Screen Rant, and stay tuned for more Reacher news.